What's going on, everyone? So, reports recently came out that the Phoenix Suns want a comparable package to what they gave up in order to acquire Kevin Durant. Now, a couple things about that. One, Kevin Durant is not, 3 years ago, Kevin Durant, right? Like, he's 37. He's had injury concerns. He, still an incredible player and would be excellent on the Spurs. But, like, how much does he impact winning, right? Like, that's the question. Outside of Golden State, you look at Brooklyn, failure. Phoenix, been a failure. Now, I don't really think that was necessarily KD's fault, right? Like, I think there were definitely circumstances, right? I think that was more of just Kevin Durant's decision-making on where to go than it was anything else, right? I think, you look at Brooklyn, it's like the James Harden situation. Kyrie Irving is, just like taking time off. And, and then you look at with the Phoenix Suns, it was like they had it done, right? Like I talked about it. As soon as they traded for Bradley Beal, I was like, Phoenix just ruined any chance they have of winning a championship. That was like the dumbest move that they could have made, right? Like, so Kevin Durant didn't think that they were going to go, and trade for that. And even then, supposedly Kevin Durant was, signed off on it, but I don't think Kevin Durant thought that was going to fail, especially when he played alongside Steph and Clay. He was probably looking at it as like, oh, we could make it work, right? Type thing. But point is, like, there are circumstances now. Now, comparable doesn't mean exact, right? They want something close. Now, there were reports that the Phoenix Suns dropped their asking price. But again, if you want, 5 firsts and 4 players that are all under 25, and you drop it from that to like, okay, we'll take 3 firsts and 3 players that, it just depends. Like, what was their asking price prior? That's the problem. We don't know what they were looking for prior. And it's like, okay, they dropped the price. Well, again, if I want $100 for something and I drop it to $99.99, it's like, yeah, I dropped my price, but it's like, I'm still trying to get $100, right? So that's something to keep in mind. The other thing is the San Antonio Spurs have competition. You have like the Heat, Minnesota, you have the Knicks, supposedly, although reports came out that the Knicks might be out on him. Again, all this stuff is speculation and rumor. Like, nothing is concrete tells concrete, but you have Miami, you have a handful of teams, and that's not counting the team that hasn't, been reported. And, Toronto supposedly is willing to pony up and kind of do a Kawhi Leonard situation with Kevin Durant and stuff. So, there's a lot going on. Now, to the Spurs kind of positive side, right? Supposedly, Kevin Durant's camp wants him to go to the Spurs. Supposedly, Kevin Durant prefers the Spurs. Now, preferred and that's the only place I want to go are two very different things. Like, something you got to keep in mind. Right? So, Kevin Durant could prefer to go to the Spurs, but also willing to go to Minnesota and willing to go to Houston, right? Well, then that drives up the price. And then the question becomes, how high is the Spurs willing to go in order to acquire him? Now, I know a lot of Spurs fans are not willing to sell the farm for Kevin Durant, right? I've seen people, you can't trade Jeremy Sohan, you can't trade, I'd only do Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell in the 14th pick, right? And that's great. But something we got to keep in mind is it doesn't matter what any of us think. It doesn't matter what any of us are willing to pony up. It doesn't matter what any of us are willing to trade or whatnot. It matters what does Brian Wright and the San Antonio Spurs, what are they willing to do? You might not be willing to do X, Y, and Z, but the Spurs might go, we have no choice. We want to do it and we want to compete now and be willing to pony it up. All right. So just keep that in mind. But what did the Spurs or the Suns, what did the Suns trade in order to land Kevin Durant? Because that's a good starting point, right? What was that package? So we kind of have an idea of probably what it's going to cost. Well, here we go, right? The Phoenix Suns traded Mikal Bridges, Cameron Johnson, Jay Crowder, okay, and 4 unprotected first-round picks, 23, 25, 27, 29, along with a 2028 first-round pick swap to the Brooklyn Nets for Kevin Durant and TJ Warren on February 9th, 2023. So, you're talking 4 firsts, unprotected first, a pick swap, 2 young, at the time, younger, versatile 3-and-D wings, and 2 of the better in the league at that time. Jay Crowder was kind of more solid. He's veteran, older, and out of the league now, right? It's a lot for Kevin Durant. So if they want something comparable, even if they were willing to take half, let's say they're willing to take half of what they gave up for Kevin Durant, right? Because they're like, okay, yeah, he is, going to be 3 years older by that point and all that stuff, right? So let's say that, right? You're talking at least one young player, a Jeremy Sohan, right? You're talking 2 unprotected firsts. So that would mean the 14th and a future first, and likely a pick swap. So you're looking at very likely, again, comparable. It's just a guess. Keep that in mind. But you're probably looking at Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, right? Jeremy Sohan, the 14th pick, and probably a future first. It's probably what you'd have to give up, right? They'd want, because that way they get a young player in Devin Vassell, they get a young player in Jeremy Sohan, they get the 14th pick. Keldon Johnson is basically just salary filler for them, but he's still young and a piece, right? And then, first. Because otherwise you'd have to trade all of that. Like, to give you a comparable package, you'd have to do, like, if they want, no, we want about the same, then you're talking all of that plus another 2 firsts, right? So, maybe, because the problem is Kevin Durant also makes so much money, you have to match salaries. So your bare minimum sending out Devin Vassell, right? Maybe you could keep Jeremy Sohan. So would you be willing to do Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, 14th pick, a future first, and like a pick swap if you keep Jeremy Sohan? Is that worth Kevin Durant? I don't know. I think it depends. How good can Kevin Durant continue to be over the next few years? Right? How well can he hold up health-wise? And what other moves do you make? Right? Because look, there is absolutely a version of the Spurs where Kevin Durant, Victor Wembanyama, Stephon Castle, De'Aaron Fox, and Dylan Harper win multiple championships over the next 3 to 5 years. Right? Wemby continues to take strides. De'Aaron Fox gets a full year with this roster. Right? Stephon Castle continues to take strides year after year. Dylan Harper becomes the guy that he's projected to be. Right? There's a version of this where the Spurs are very good, and not just for, the next 3 to 5 years, but, beyond. Right? So if you trade for Kevin Durant, let's say, worst case scenario, say you trade Jeremy Sohan, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, right? The 14th pick, and then, future first plus a pick swap. It's a lot. It's a lot to give up for Kevin Durant at this stage of his career. But let's say you do that and you win 2 championships in the next 3 years, it's worth it. Without a doubt, it's worth it. But the problem is we don't have a crystal ball. We can't, okay, yeah. If you jumped in a time machine and was like, hey, Kevin Durant stays on the Spurs for the next 3 years, you trade the package that I just mentioned, which is a lot, but the Spurs win 2 out of the next 3 years. I would immediately be like, absolutely trade that. I'd even give you, here, you want another first? Go ahead, take it, right? Because it's so hard to win championships in this league. And if you told me you can win 2, even 1, I think there's an argument, right? Because again, you could stay the course and never win a championship, right? It's the NBA, right? Especially with the new CBA and all this stuff, it's tough. So if I knew the championships would be coming, if that were to happen, then sure, pony up whatever you have to. Go win the championships, right? And then you figure it out after. And you'd still have a young core post Kevin Durant, right? You win 2 championships and you still have, an aging Fox, right? Depends what he is. But let's say remove Fox. You'd still have Castle, Dylan Harper, and Victor Wembanyama. And those guys just won 2 championships, right? So again, I would do that all day. But Anyway, as always, this is a discussion, pass a question to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.